All right, today you're going to take notes on our last form, which is standard form. Standard form is capital A x plus capital B y equals capital C. A, B, and C are part of our integers. Remember, we talked about integers in our last chapter. So integers, we're talking about -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, etc. So what that means is no decimals and no fractions. And our A coefficient is always positive. So we'll need to work to make sure when we're done writing the equation that A stays positive. Okay. One of the things we can do is we can find the slope from standard form. To do that, we need to convert it to slope-intercept. So we need to make sure it looks like y equals mx plus b. So we're going to solve for y, kind of like we did at the end of chapter 1. So I have my equation. First, I want to get this 6y by itself, so I can subtract 2x over. I bring down my -6y. Since these are not like terms, no x, this has an x, I can't combine them, but I want to put them in this form. So I'm going to write my x term first and then subtract 18. Last thing I need to do to get y by itself is to divide everything by -6. Those cancel, and I get y equals, this becomes 1/3 x plus 3. If I just need to find the slope-intercept, here's a possible shortcut. Since we always subtract the ax term over, it means we're always taking the opposite of our a coefficient. And then our second step, we're dividing by whatever b is. So a shortcut we can use to find the slope is take the opposite of a and divide by b. Second thing we're looking at then is how do we find our intercepts, right? We talk about on a graph, on our line, they're going to have two intercepts. We've talked about our y-intercept. We've said that that needs to be 0, comma, some number. And we're also going to look for our x-intercept, which in this case will be some number, comma, 0. Okay. In our example, same one from above, in order to find this, this means I want to plug 0 in for y. So when I rewrite my equation, I plug 0 in for y. 6 times 0 is 0. So it kind of goes away, disappears on us, and we just get 2x equals -18. I can divide by 2, and that gives me x equals -9. So my x-intercept would be at -9, 0. For the y-intercept, we just switch it up. We put 0 in for x. So now I rewrite my equation, but I put 0 for x, and I keep my y, and I solve. So 2 times 0 is 0, leaving me with -6y equals -18. And then I can divide both sides by -6. Those cancel. Negative divided by a negative gives me a positive. And so my y-intercept would be at 0, 3. Okay, we are going to practice both of those ideas on our second page of notes today. So I'll go through a couple of these problems together. I'm going to go through A and D as examples, and then you should try B and C and make sure they're right with our note packet on Canvas. So our goal is to turn it into slope-intercept form. Remember, that's y equals mx plus b. So what I want to do for A is I want to get y by itself. Since I don't have a coefficient, I really only have one step here of subtracting 2x from both sides. I can bring my y down. Remember, these are not like terms. This has an x, this does not, so I can't combine them, but I want to make sure I put my x term first. So that was a negative 2x, and then I'm adding 3. On example D, it's the same idea, right? My goal is to get y by itself. First, I have to get this whole term by itself. So to move 12x over, I'm going to subtract 12x. That's going to cancel. I'm going to bring these down to get negative 9y equals, same process, I need to put my x term first, which is negative, and then subtract 9. On this one, to get y by itself, my final step is to divide everything by negative 9. These will cancel, so I get y equals negative 12 over negative 9. We will reduce that, and it becomes a positive 4/3. We keep our x, and then negative 9 divided by negative 9 gives me a positive 1 to get our slope-intercept form. At the bottom of the page, we just want to find our slope. Okay, if I want to find my slope, I have two options. I can either do what we just did and turn it into slope-intercept form. Our slope is in the m spot. Or I can use the shortcut where I want to do the opposite of A over B. I'll do one of each, and then you should do the other two and check your answers. I'll start with A in solving for y in our first form. So with this one, I'm going to subtract 4x over. Gives me 10y equals negative 4x plus 10. I can divide everything by 10. So I get y equals, if I simplify this, it's negative 2/5 x, and here I have plus 1. The goal is to find the slope. So to find my slope, I look next to my x, and you have a slope of negative 2/5. On B, I'll do our shortcut. So on B, I want to do the opposite of A over B. So when I look at my form and I match up my locations, I really see that A is 1. So the opposite of A would be negative 1. My B value is 5, so I divide by 5. So my slope is just negative 1/5. The last thing we're going to look at is graphing. So we're going to look at how do we graph these standard form equations, okay? We have two options, okay? We have an option 1 called intercepts method, meaning we're going to find our x and y intercepts. And then option 2 that I'll go through is to convert to slope-intercept form, which we just spent the last page working on. So I'll go through option number 1 first, okay? Option number 1, graphing slope-intercept form. When do we want to use it? We want to use it, if you remember our form, we want to use it whenever C can be divided evenly or nicely, as sometimes I say, by A and B. Okay, so we're going to use it when C is divisible by A and B. Okay, here's a good example. Our C value is negative 24. Negative 24 is divisible by both negative 3, my A value, and negative 24 is divisible by 8, my B value. So this is a great time to use the intercepts method. And what we do for the intercepts method is we really just create a table with two ordered pairs, because you only need 2 points to make a line. And we're going to substitute 0 in for x in one ordered pair, like I did in my table here, and 0 in for y in my second ordered pair. These are going to give me my y-intercept in the first row and my x-intercept in the second row. We solve for the remaining variable like we did on our first page of notes, and then we can use a ruler to draw a line through our graph. So for this one, if I plug 0 in for x, right, negative 3 times 0 plus 8y equals negative 24. This will be covered up. That's why it's called the cover-up method. And you're just left with 8y equals negative 24. If I divide by 8, that means my y value would be negative 3. I'm going to do the exact same thing, but now I'm going to plug 0 in for y. So I'm going to rewrite my equation down here. I have negative 3x plus 8 times 0 equals negative 24. Again, this middle part gets covered up because anything times 0 is 0. So I can just rewrite this as negative 3x equals negative 24. I divide by negative 3. A negative divided by a negative is positive. So I'm going to graph those 2 points. So 0, negative 3 means I don't go left or right. I just go down 3, and I have my y-intercept down here. 8, 0 means I go to the right 8. I don't go up or down at all. And then I'm going to connect those. So I'm going to use a ruler, line them up. And draw my line all the way through the graph with arrows on the ends. Option two is to turn it into slope-intercept form. Okay, so if I look at slope-intercept form, I want to use this whenever they don't divide out nicely. So whenever C is not divisible by A or B. So whenever you know you're going to get a fraction slope. Then slope-intercept is usually the best. We've already done this on the last page, so you'll kind of see that it's familiar. We're going to solve for y. Once I get y by itself, I can rewrite it in slope-intercept form, and then I'm going to graph it the same way we did the other day. We're going to use our y-intercept, and we're going to use our slope for rise over run. Here's our example. Solve for y. I'm going to add 4x over. That gives me 4x plus 30. And I'm going to divide everything by 5. Notice, does not divide evenly. Doesn't come out so nice. So I'm going to leave that as 4/5. That's going to be my slope. My y-intercept becomes 6. So I start here at 0, 6 by going up 6. And my slope is 4/5. So that means I want to go up 4, right 5. I don't have enough graph to do that. So I can do the complete opposite. I can go down 4, left 5. And you can see after we draw our line in, it does make sense because we should have had a positive slope, and we do have that. If we had a little stick man here, you'd be walking uphill. I'm going to do one more of each just so you can have an example, and then you should finish the rest of page 32 and check your lines on our answer key on Canvas to make sure you're doing it correctly. Okay. I'm going to take a look at C. Okay. Now C, example C, my C value is negative 3. And negative 3 does not divide by 5 very nicely. So our x-intercepts would not be the best idea. So on these problems, I like to solve for y. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 5x over. This brings down a negative y equals negative 5x minus 3. And I have one last step because I can't leave this negative. This really means negative 1y, which means I need to divide everything by negative 1. So I get y equals 5x plus 3. I can start at 3, My slope is 5. Go up 5, right 1. You could also go down 5, left 1. You can line them up and draw your line through. Okay. A good one to use the t-chart for would be B. So you make your t-chart, you plug 0 in for x. Up here, if I do that, that'd be negative 15 times 0 plus 5y equals 30. That really leaves me with 5y equals 30. Divide by 5, that means y equals 6. I'm going to repeat that same process and plug 0 in for y. So I'll have negative 15x plus 5 times 0 equals 30. That's just 0, so negative 15x equals 30. Divide by negative 15. That gives me x equals negative 2. So I graph a point at 0, 6. Oops, 1, 2. And negative 2, 0 over here. And I connect them. I would say for A, a t-chart is a great option. Give that a try. The rest of these, you probably want to solve for y. So for D, E, and F, you want to do the solve for y that we did in C. Try those and check your answers.